Hi guys, just another quick update about the Titan. This is part 5. Speeding along now the legs are done and we've gone through those. We are moving on to the body, as we said. So basically what I'm doing is JB welding these large sections together and clamping them up so I can just leave them and they're being pushed together. So basically I've got the left hand side carapace and this back section glued together and clamped at 2 points, so it's pushing it all together, creating a tight tight joint. So very nice there. Once this is dry, I'll do exactly the same on the other side and let it dry overnight and then continue the build. I was looking at the servitors, and there's a fair bit of detail in there, but I don't think it'll be necessary to paint them outside of the carapace. So I'm going to glue them in, and there you go. So I can still get to that detail even by putting both sides on. So I'm going to glue this side on, glue the two servitors in, and then probably spray it up. It'll be difficult to get into this interior detail if this is glued on, so I'll probably spray this first and then glue it on. I mean, it's only going to be basic paint job inside really, and the main event will be on the outside of the Titan, which will be the main bodywork. So that's it for a second and I'll get back to you shortly. And this is the second layup. The one side is dry, and then we've just done exactly the same thing on the other side and just clamped it. There was a bit of a gap underneath this box, so I put some plastic card under there. I'm going to just put a skim of green stuff. Not that I think you're going to see it actually. I'll have to make sure actually that if I'm not going to see it, I won't bother green stuff in it. But just a skim of green stuff or liquid green stuff just to fill those gaps. But you can see the back nice and tight. It's all kind of even. So, and this is all dry now. This is gone off overnight, he says. And there we go. Really strong. I haven't pinned this, just so you know. One of the guys commenting saying he was a bit nervous that I hadn't pinned anything. But I'm pretty confident this will hold. I mean, I'm pulling that strong as hard as I can. Well, maybe not as hard as I can, but I'm pulling that, under far more pressure than a static model is going to take, and that's not going anywhere. So I'm really pleased with that. So again, proves the point that plan, because once you've glued this up, you're going to have to cut this apart. So that's that. So that's it. So so that's the body section done. That's pretty cool. So I might spray the interior and kind of paint that and mask it off maybe. But we've got our front section now, which just slots in, which is nice. So these bits butt up to these bits. So it all fits up really nicely. I mean, and I've kind of done this in the way that that it all goes together like this. So again, make sure before you glue anything, make sure any bits you're going to add to it fit without any movement of your pieces. Because when you're mocking it up with blue tack, these pieces move slightly, but once it's glued, it's not moving. So make sure you're not going to be encumbered by any difficulties there. And then we've got our servitors, which we said we were going to glue in. So, and they just go, they'd fit in the slots. So that's really cool. There we go. So that'll be the next job. Glue the servitors in, and then just decide what I'm going to do with regard gluing this in and painting it. So I'll decide on that and I'll be back with you shortly. Okay, right, we've been doing a little bit of mocking up and this all fits nice. So the front section's on, as you saw. This little bit here, this top hatch, I've had to add a strip of square plastic rod to it. It doesn't matter, it's not the same width. because that's going to get glued in. And you're not going to see it. So that was a bit short. I'm not sure if it was just short, if I cut it short. I was pretty careful not cutting it short, so it didn't fit the gap. Anyway, so that's fine, that fits, and once that's painted you won't see it. So what I did with my top, I'm having trouble with this top carapace. It's I keep thinking I've de-warped it, but it looks like it's going up slightly at the front, doesn't it? Anyway, I actually put the section in it to make it to kind of expand out around it, so that fits lovely, but it doesn't quite fit here perfectly. So what I'm going to do, we'll do some de-warping action. If you have never de-warped resin before, this is how I do it, and it works quite well for me. I've just boiled a kettle and filled this tub with boiling hot water. I'm going to keep this section in the carapace because I want this carapace to be able to accept this section ultimately. So we just put it in the hot water and leave it for 20 seconds. I'm sorry I haven't got any mood music or interlude music, or elevator music as they call it, don't they? But we'll just leave that for 15-20 seconds, and then we're going to try and fit. Well, you're not going to try. We're going to fit the carapace. So these are all our sections. Servitors are kind of incidental because they sit below this anyway. Just as an aside, on our carapace as well, it's in the water, we've got these two hatches which fit over. Oops. Honestly, they do. They get glued to the carapace, and then they fit over this section here. It's a really, really nice little design, to be honest. It's really well thought out. But as with resin models, it does need a bit of fettling. So this should be my last bit of fettling, really. And obviously I want the carapace to be removable, so I want it to be a perfect fit. So, right, let's go fishing for our bit of resin. It's hot, hot, hot. So what we're going to do is just lay it flat over here and just make sure that this is perfectly flat and accepting this underside, this generator bank. And while it's still hot, we can get it in. There you go, that's kind of in. Not sure if live de-warping works very well, but there we go. I want to just kind of show you what I do and how I do it. So obviously this edge we want flat against this, which it wasn't. It was kind of lifting up a bit and there was quite a large gap. And green stuff, I can't green stuff this gap because I want this to be removable. So we just keep going really. See, it's lifting there slightly at the back. So I'm not really happy with that, so I think I'm going to take this out, take that generator bank out and put that back in the hot water. And it's really kind of a little kind of mission about going back and forward. And again, once I've glued this front section in, I'll probably need to do this whole thing again because this isn't glued in, and like I said before, you get that kind of wiggle room because it's not glued in. But we'll see. But this is kind of what I do. So again, fish him out. And get your... That's the wrong way around. That doesn't help, does it? Okay, so that, as you can see, the gap on that now is much better. So I can kind of have an acceptable gap, if you like, you know, and just kind of push it down. And as the piece of resin cools down, it'll stay fixed in the position that you have moulded it in. Keen-eyed among you will notice that I've snapped this cross member here, but once it's all glued up, it'll just glue straight back on again. So I'm not too worried about that. So that's kind of going off now. You can feel the resin going hard. And that still fits. Ooh, it's a bit tight, so that's going to need de-warping again. So it's all kind of, you know, back in the hot water. Okay, this is going to be a bit more of a challenge than I thought. So I'm going to turn the camera off and sort this out, and it'll come back lovely. Catch you in a sec. Okay, 20 minutes later. The carapace fits nicely. This is all dry fitted, generator banks in just to make sure this hatch is sort of splayed. Turns out I had to file down some of these inner sections here because it was catching slightly. So this gap here I can live with. I mean, it's not much of a gap, and we've got our roof section fitted with our bit of square plastic rod, and there he is on his base. I've just blue tacked this on just for illustration purposes, and there he is. He's on his base. I'll show you. So he's on his base, walking up over the hill. I'm pretty pleased actually. I'm really pleased with that positioning. Like I said before, it makes a big difference leveling off the waist, so you know this is going to be level. But I'm really happy with that. It looks really cool. So we're going to have a little demo here, I suppose. Just got our magnets for our weapons, and they're going to be kind of underslung like that. So I mean, I'll now this is sort of set up, and this is his final standing pose really. I can actually glue these weapons onto these ball joints now at an angle I'm happy with, and I can just sort of head out. So obviously I'm kind of looking down like that, so we can sort that out as well. Pretty happy with that. Now I really need to decide what I'm going to paint first before I assemble it. Again, when you're gluing these things together, it's inevitable you're going to get glue on stuff. I mean, my fingers are covered in super glue. It's just, I mean, I know I'm a fairly experienced modeler, to be fair, and it just happens, and it's inexplicable, and you don't even know why, but it just does. So with all the confidence in the world, you think you're not going to get glue on stuff, you're going to get glue on stuff. So it's a real kind of balance between painting it and doing a really good job, but then messing that paint job up because you've got glue all over it. So it's a tricky one. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. And again, the interior section, you're not really going to see it. I mean, I've got the old Mars pattern that I ended up selling, and the Reaver. I mean, I can count the times on two hands that I've taken the carapace off to have a look inside. Usually when people come round and I'm and my wife's going on about the cost of Forge World models and say, tell them how much that one cost, and show them, and then I show them the detailing and stuff, and they're quite impressed then. But yeah, so I'll work out what I'm going to do. But I mean, like I say, the main event paintwork is going to be on the exterior. I'm quite excited about painting that. So we'll decide, see what we're going to do, and that'll be next really. So we're in a kind of transitional period now. I mean, most of the build work's done, like I said. I mean, all of these pieces here. So we've got our head carapace, leg armour, thigh armour, waist armour. I mean, that's all ready to be painted because that's going to get glued on. And we just need a little bit of glue here, so I'll mask that off. So I'm not gluing glue to glue. Whereas, just for the uninformed, I suppose, just this bit, another tip, whereas plastic glue, you can paint both sides of a bit of plastic that you're going to glue together. Like if you're making a Space Marine and you've painted the arm joint and you put glue on both sides, the glue will melt. So again, it'll melt together and fuse that bond, regardless of whether you've got paint on it or not. With the resin, we're not using plastic glue, obviously we're using super glue and epoxy, and super glue and epoxy don't melt the paint, so you don't really want a paint joint, glue joint, because that's obviously weak. So I'd mask off this bit and mask off this bit, and then when I paint it all up and glue it on, I'll have a resin to resin strong joint there. So, but I mean, it's looking pretty nice. That's a bit of leg armour there, but I'm really chuffed with this actually. Like I said in a previous video, I think I prefer the Mars pattern just for the lines and the shape. This is much more boxy, but I'm really liking the way it's coming out. I'm I think it's maybe the pose. But anyway, that's me. I'll shut up now and I'll stop rambling, and I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers, guys.